けてく夜明けにこれが最後の願いね Let's go! レオンの絡む花踊る影揺れるステップ流されるままにはにかむ横顔に遠くで響く鼓動探すほど見失い溶けてく夜明けにこれが最後の願いね嘘でもいいからみんなないものねだりね Let's go! 寂しげな言葉をつぶやく唇を音色と混ぜ合わせて消えてく人の波預ける指先に儚く揺れる光溶けてく夜明けにこれが最後の願いね嘘でもいいからみんなないものねだりね
失われた声街に飲まれて霞んでいく笑顔遠くになる瞳曖昧な距離さえ甘くてほんの少しでもこの夜に酔わせて
溶けてく夜明けにこれが最後の願いね嘘でもいいからみんなないものねだりね溶けてく夜明けにこれが最後の願いね嘘でもいいからみんなないものねだりね
What is up, homies? Please let me know if you can hear me all right, and hopefully you can see me all right as well. But welcome to stream number 3. We're starting to get a little bit more used to streaming out here, but only a little bit because I still get nervous when I'm preparing for these, but hopefully it doesn't show too much and I can answer your questions without a problem. So, Benji West, thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone else who's in the chat right now. Appreciate you guys always. So today we are going to be doing what we've done before. We're going to be doing 2 hours of streaming, and we're going to be answering Japanese language related questions for the first hour and a half. And then for the last half hour, I'll be answering any questions related to life in Japan. So it can be moving here, what's life like here, what are the people like, etc., etc. So how we're going to do this is the same as last time. I'm going to post a comment in the chat here where you can ask your questions, your Japanese questions here. And again, I almost posted my stream code. So we're gonna not start off the stream by me exposing personal information here. Let's go to the Marshmallow. Okay, copy that link. Boom. All right, so that should be that pin message. All right, and I will also flip the scene so you can also have a QR code on the screen that you can read. Hello Akishiba, thanks for being a member, appreciate it. Nice to see you in here. I got your kind also right here. If you can see a little Shiba in the background, you have your comrades out here. You can't say you're a streamer till you dox yourself. Honestly, yeah. It's bound to happen. I think I've gotten lucky so far. I haven't doxed myself, but I think it's inevitable at this point. I've literally almost posted my stream code twice and I've only streamed 3 times, so it's only a matter of time. Hey everyone. Hey Bianca. A little quiet, eh? Okay, if anyone else thinks I'm quiet, I can try to turn up the mic, because definitely don't want to be sounding too quiet out here. I can actually... Boom. Actually, I think, yeah, I did have the knob down a little bit because I was recording for a video. So let me know if this sounds a bit better. All right. Yeah, enjoy your emojis. Ad key. Way better now. Okay, yeah, great to hear. Yeah, thanks for the shout. I didn't realize I still had that down from recording my videos. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions loaded up. Okay, I don't see any new ones yet, so we can just chill in the chat for now. I do have questions from last time, but I like to get to the questions that are asked during the stream since, you know, it's more of like a community time. We can actually talk to each other. So I'll wait for any new ones to come in first. What time is it in Japan? Right now it is 9 p.m. So 9 p.m. on a Sunday, a little bit later, but still a reasonable time. I'm finding that it's probably better to do these streams in evenings in Japan, just because it's going to hit most of the time zones. It's not going to work out for everybody, but at least if Japan's in the evening, then that means the rest of Asia is in the evening, mostly workable. Europe is lunchtime, which would be during work, but since it's Sunday, they shouldn't have work. And then North America, if it's Eastern Standard Time, then right now it should be, what, 8 p.m., I think? Or sorry, 8 a.m., which is early, but still kind of reasonable. Bit early for a Sunday. So, I mean, if you make it out, then you're a champ. But for like, what is it, Pacific time, it's going to be 5 a.m. That's a little bit tough. But I think this is the best we can do unless I try to push it a bit later for Japan. But yeah, you guys let me know what works best. Yes, Nanomask, the first half, about the first 3/4, I guess, is about Japanese language. So any questions you have about Japanese language, feel free to throw them in the QR code that's on the screen or in the pinned comment in the chat. As a European, you're absolutely cooked with the timing. Are you really that cooked? I mean, it's like 12 p.m., right? Noon. Like, that's pretty reasonable. I mean, you're probably like going out on your day, like, you know, hanging out with friends or whatever. So, I mean, in that sense, it's a little cooked, but I mean, at least you have a chance. Like if you wanted to come out, you could. You just have to have an open Sunday. Here in Kenya, it's 3:05 p.m. Thanks for visiting from Kenya. Appreciate you. 3 p.m. I'd say that's a pretty reasonable time. See you in about 15 minutes. All right, then I'll see you in a bit. Nanomask. Let's check our inbox. I think we're starting to get some questions in. All right, then let's get started with the Q&A, shall we? All right. Boom. All right. What's the best order for learning Japanese grammar? Is there a recommended sequence of topics, like starting with sentence word order, then sentence patterns, particles, te form, mas form, and so on? Yeah. Good question. What's the best order? Yeah. So what I like to do here, let me get this screen bigger. So, I mean, you've probably known by now, every time grammar is mentioned, I always recommend the exact same resource, which is Tokuyuu's Guide to Learning Japanese. Of course, textbooks work too. Like whatever you're comfortable with, you can use. The Genki series is very popular as well. But since I started learning Japanese as a broke 18-year-old who didn't want to spend no money, Tokuyuu's Guide is a free resource, so that's what I use. So if you go to Tokuyuu's Guide, Basic Grammar, the beautiful thing about it is that Tokuyuu's Guide will order it how it should be ordered in a logical way. So if you go to Basic Grammar, so here, so Tokuyuu starts it off by starting with da, which is the casual form of des. So, I mean, it makes sense. Like it's the most basic form of making sentences. Hito da or hito desu, that is a person, or gakusei da, gakusei desu, is a student. So, I mean, the beautiful thing about this guide is that it will be ordered in a way that makes sense. And then from da, it goes datta, which is the casual form of deshita, so past tense. So, oh, I am hearing some audio on my end. I am not sure what that is. I think that's, I had some videos opened up for doing some video editing and it just played the audio randomly. I was like, did I just get like raided? But this is not even Twitch. So I'm sorry, I just got a little bit startled there. But yeah, back to your question. So yeah, I would just follow Tokuyuu's Guide. It's a little bit difficult in the beginning to know what order you should go about for learning grammar, but use an external guide like Tokuyuu's Guide or like a grammar book or a textbook to get you started in the beginning. And then I'd say once you finish N5, so all the very basic grammar, then I think you can kind of start going off on your own a bit and start just looking up your own grammar. So if you finish N5 grammar, then you could literally just go say N4 Japanese grammar and just like look it up on your own. If you don't want to use the textbook like me when I started and you want to do this for free, there's literally like hundreds of resources online that will just give you a literal list of all the grammar. And then you can just learn it like that. So aida, so while, during. And of course, just like aida ni, while, during, with the ni particle, ammari nai, not very much. If you're just reading it off a list, it doesn't really like sink in that well. So I would recommend, say, using an external guide to get a list of the grammar, and then just go to YouTube. Go to YouTube and say, like, I want to learn that first grammar, aida. And then you can just look it up, like aida grammar Japanese. And then you'll probably get like tens of videos explaining this grammar, aida ni, uchi ni, saichu ni. There might be some that you're not learning right now. Oh, there's one right here, aida ni versus aida. And then you can learn it that way, and it's actually someone explaining it to you. So, long story short, I would stick to a guide of some sort in the beginning, just because it's hard to organize yourself because you don't know how to learn the language yet. But once you get to N4 and 3, then you can really start to study on your own a little bit more comfortably by just looking up the grammar at your level, looking up JLPT N3 grammar, and then looking up, say, tutorials on YouTube or whatever to help actually teach it to you, and then reviewing it on your own. That would be my recommendation. Hello from Brisbane, 10 p.m. here. Very boring name. Thank you for showing up, even though it's a little bit late for you guys, just 1 hour ahead. Still still doable, but hopefully don't keep you up too late for work or anything. But I appreciate you coming out. 7 p.m. That's probably a much better time for you, Hong. Deviant, yes, nice having you live here. That was my pet crab. You have a pet crab? You never attempted to eat him? You think, yeah. And yeah, Yoda, please use the QR code or the pinned comment in the chat to ask your questions. And Madas, I'm a great fan of you from Pakistan. Started learning pattern with the help of your video. Glad my videos could help. Thanks for watching. Okay. Yeah, no worries, Yoda. And we'll move to the next question then. So, how are your kanji apprehension now? Any unknown kanji in everyday life? Yeah, so what is my comprehension like? Overall, I'd say it's like pretty good. Like everyday life, it's not really a struggle. It's definitely slower. Like I'm not reading as quickly as a Japanese person. So like when, say I go to like a clinic and they hand me the form to fill out, I mean, at this point I'm pretty used to it, so I can get by it pretty quickly, but I'm gonna just be reading things a little bit slower than Japanese people. If people like hand me forms, or I'm like, I gotta read, you know, whatever flyer comes in the mail, I'll be reading it slower, but for the most part, I can read everything pretty fine. I play my video games in Japanese too for that extra reading practice while I'm just having fun. So for the most part, it's pretty good, just slower. But of course, there's always kanji that come up that I'm like, wait, I learned this one. What is it again? And I have to look it up and like, oh yeah, it's that reading. But it's a word that like I only see every like year, so it's kind of hard to sink in sometimes. And then of course, sometimes there are kanji that I'm just like, what is this kanji? Why are they using this? Like I've never seen it before. But in general, yeah, it's pretty comfortable. And if I wanted to get faster, then I could just read some more books, honestly. But not a major hindrance in my everyday life right now. Thank you for the question. All right, hello. I'm planning to study in Japan after graduating 2027. I want to know if I'm bringing a PC would be a large hassle, shipping, etc. Okay, so this is a life in Japan question. So yes, please ask that. So all life in Japan questions, please save it for 10:30 p.m. That'll be our last half hour. I'll try to circle back to this one if I can remember, but if you want to make sure I can come back to it on time, then please send it back in the marshmallow when the time is right. Okay, how did you practice your conversation skills? Because I got no one to converse with right now. Yeah, ain't that the classic problem? So the issue is that you can do all the self-studying you want. You know, there's lots of resources online to find the grammar, do some listening, whatever. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of Japanese people that live outside of Japan. And especially if you don't live in a big city, you're just like kind of cooked because there's going to be almost no Japanese people. So what I recommend is, I actually have a video on this. I'll put it in the chat here. But the title is How to Get Better at Speaking Japanese Fluently. And one of the things I recommend is you can use a lot of online resources. That's the beautiful thing of our modern age. So you can use resources like HelloTalk. I think I mentioned this in our last live, but HelloTalk, here, let me zoom this in so you can see it a bit better. I guess it's a website as well, but it's mostly an app you can download on your phone. And it's literally just to meet other people who are trying to learn the opposite language as you. So if you're trying to learn Japanese, then it'll be Japanese people who are trying to learn English, if English is your most comfortable language. And then you can literally just chat. Normally it's just like text chatting, but I think there's also like a phone function. And if you happen to be living in the same country, then you can like schedule to like meet up and actually converse. So HelloTalk is a nice casual way to meet people, and it's free. But if you want to pay for things, then there's like a bunch of resources online that you can pay for. Like so Japanese tutor online, and there's just like a boatload that you can pay for. Like you've probably seen like ads for it if you've watched any Japanese YouTube video, like Preply. Kumon? Is Kumon like this? I thought Kumon was just math and English. But yeah, there's like a bunch of these. italki is a big one as well. like you just like see all these resources up here, but these are going to be paying for it. So you'll be paying for a tutor by like an hourly rate, and they'll either, you can pick what kind of tutor you want, but you can just have regular conversation, or you can have like scheduled lessons where they actually teach you things. I'm sure you could just ask them to correct your speaking while you're speaking. I think you can customize that as you go. So this is a paid option if you want to have actual like really focused scheduled learnings by a professional, or at least semi-professional. Whereas Hello Talk is a little bit more casual. It's free. Of course, if you make a friend, they're not necessarily gonna like always be available when you want them to be available, like a tutor would. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, lots of online resources for you to find people to talk to, which is the great part. So very boring name. When you speak with people, can they tell you're from overseas? For the most part they can, yeah. I mean, the longer we go on talking, the more apparent it becomes, because you know, my pronunciation isn't perfect. Like I still like my pitch accent isn't totally perfect, and I'll probably still say things in a way that sounds like a bit like how a foreigner thinks, and not like totally 100% what a natural Japanese person would say. So, and that becomes more obvious as you're speaking longer and longer. But when it's like short sentences, or just like in the beginning, some people often ask me like if I'm half Japanese, or sometimes they'll ask if I'm actually like born and raised in Japan, which is just like, let's go. When they're like, oh, so were you born and raised here? I'm like, no, but thank you for feeding my ego for the next week. And then like sometimes they'll ask if I'm like straight up Japanese, but for the most part, they'll be able to tell, especially if we talk for a while. And also just like when they look at me, like I'm not 100% Asian. So I think when they see me, for the most part, they're like, okay, this guy's overseas. But then when I start talking, they're like, oh, wow, your Japanese is really good. But I also don't feel that bad, because I have a friend who's half Japanese and he speaks like perfectly fluent Japanese. But because he's half and he looks like kind of more foreign than being full Japanese, people will still give him Nihongo jozu. Even though he literally speaks fluent Japanese. It's just the most outrageous thing, just because his face is not 100% Japanese. So that does make me feel better, and hopefully that makes you feel better too if you keep getting Nihongo jozu even when you feel like you're doing well. Like sometimes it's just how you look, because you know, Japan doesn't have a lot of cultural diversity. So that's just is how it is. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. What is my ethnicity? So I am born and raised in Canada, but my father was Chinese Malaysian, and my mother is technically like British. Yes. So it's like a mix of like, you could say it's like British and Chinese would be like my main mix. So I look very ethnically vague, which is why people will ask me if I'm half Japanese. Like, where are you from here? Like, where are you from? Like, what are you? Because I'll be like, I'm from Canada. I'm like, oh, so you're Canadian ethnically. I'm like, well, there's no real ethnic Canadian. And then it's just like, it's a difficult conversation to have that I've had 50 times. Perfect for Singapore. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, if there's like lots of like mixed people in Singapore. Yeah, I mean, anyone who's got mixed ethnicity will know what I'm talking about when you have to introduce yourself and it's just like a little bit of a backstory. All right, let me get back to the next question here. But thank you for your comments in the chat. Okay. For Japanese, do you have any tips for uni, if English course, from essays, and if Japanese language school should be learnt ASAP? Japanese tips for uni. Okay, so I'm assuming what you're asking here is that you are from a non-Japan country and you're thinking about going to university in Japan, and you're asking for tips for Japanese to go to a university in Japan, or if Japanese should be learnt, and if Japanese should be learned ASAP for that university. I would say if the university course is going to be in Japanese, wait, you're saying if English course. Okay, I mean, if your courses are in English, then no, you don't need to learn Japanese for uni. But if you're going to university in Japan, potentially like say like for a 4-year undergrad, then I would still recommend you learning Japanese because you're going to be living there for such a long time. Like knowing the language, I mentioned this in my most recent video, like how to move to Japan, but I really recommend people to get to like around an N3 level before they move to Japan, because even if you don't need it for your university, if it's in English, it'll still help a lot. Like you're just going to enjoy your life so much more because you can actually speak to people. You'll be able to appreciate the culture more. And once you have an N3 level, that's kind of the tipping point where when you're in Japan, immersion actually kind of works. Because for immersion to work, you need to have what's called comprehensible input. Again, I mentioned this in a previous stream, comprehensible input language. But essentially what it is, so language input, listening or reading, that's just slightly above the learner's current proficiency level. And that's often quoted as the best immersion to get better at a language. And the problem is if you don't have that much Japanese knowledge, if you go to Japan, then all of the daily conversations are significantly above your level. And the immersion is not going to work because it's just all going to go above your head and it's just going to sound like white noise to you. Whereas if you get to an N3 or higher level, then the everyday Japanese is going to sound just above your understanding, and it'll be perfect immersion practice for you to get better. So in short, I mean, if you're only going, say, for like an exchange, then, you know, you don't have to. Again, still learning Japanese will improve your experience so much. But if you're going for like a 4-year university undergrad, I would 100% recommend learning Japanese ASAP, at least to an N3 level, because you're just going to enjoy your life so much more there. And you're just going to, your Japanese is just going to exponentially level up when you do get there. What's up, Tokuyuu? What is up? Thanks for joining the chat. And guys, remember, please, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer that are not related to what I'm talking about right now, please throw them in the QR code on the screen or in the pinned comment in the chat. Yeah. Nihongo Jozu. So Singapore is 75% Chinese, 15% Malaysian, Indian, and former British colony. Yeah, true. I fit right into Singapore then. I actually do have aunts who live in Singapore, so I am technically connected. All right, and let me just refresh the questions we got here. Okay, we just got a whole lot more in the inbox, which is great. Let me figure out where the oldest one is. Okay. And I think it's this one. I like to learn from reading paired with textbooks. Any recs for what I should use after Genki 2? Thanks. Yeah, so classic problem. I actually talk about this in my question, or in my video called, I believe it's this one, plateau. So how to overcome the Japanese language plateau, because I specifically talk about the conundrum of when you're following the textbooks, and Genki 1 and 2, like a great series. I've never used it personally, but I've heard good things about it. The issue is that you're following the textbook. It's really well laid out for you. Here, let me just put it on the screen just so we know what we're talking about here. Yeah, this Genki textbook 1 and 2, very popular. The issue is that it's so well laid out for you, like the kanji you have to learn, the vocab, the grammar, and then you do Genki 1, and I'm pretty sure that's around like an N5 level, and then you do Genki 2, and that takes you to an N4 level, but there's no Genki 3. And then it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? And I exactly mentioned this conundrum in my video, how to beat the Japanese language plateau. Once you finish Genki 2, if that's the series you're using, learning Japanese will be more like being your own boss. You're going to need to decide what level you're at and decide then which resources you should use to study what you should next study. So if you're finishing Genki 2, which is probably around the N4 level, like I just talked about earlier here. Okay, this site really gives a lot of ads, but you would literally just say, go to Google. Okay, I'm finished N4, so I'm around an N3 level now. Okay, so N3 grammar list. Okay, and again, you could find like a list of all the grammar you need to know for N3, and then you can look up that grammar on YouTube and have people teach it to you specifically. I'm pretty sure, like, this is how I studied. There's probably a video explaining every single grammar from N5 to N1 on YouTube, and probably by multiple people. So any grammar you want to have taught to you, it's on YouTube for free, 100%. The hard part is that you just need to decide for yourself. And that's, I think, a big part of getting fluent in Japanese. It's a huge hurdle because in the beginning, it's really easy. Like, everyone's a beginner. This is something people don't realize. It's like, okay, why is there only Genki 1 and 2? Like, I don't get it. Like, why wouldn't they just make 3? It's because over 90% of learners are at that beginner level and will not get above that. So the number of people who will buy a Genki 1 book is going to be, say, like 100 million. But Genki 2, the people who had actually go through the entire textbook and be ready to buy Genki 2, from 100 million, it'd probably go down to like 5 million. No joke, 5% maybe. And then from Genki 2 to who would want Genki 3, it would be like, say, 200,000. So like the market that would buy a Genki 3 book is so much smaller. So that's why, not just for Genki, but for any resource that's out there, there's just a boatload of resources if you're at a beginner level. But once you get above, like to an intermediate or higher level, there's not that many resources out there because not many people make it that far. So a huge hurdle that people come across is now, since the resources aren't laid out for you, like they're not going to hold your hand through it, you have to make the transition to be able to study on your own. Like, you really need to be able to self-study, or maybe hire a tutor or go to a language school that's really specified, and you're probably paying big bucks because there are only a few students who are at that level. So you need to pay big bucks to make up for that, so that they will hold your hand the rest of the way to, say, N2, N1. But for most of us who do want to shell out like thousands of dollars, it's better to learn how to self-study. And a big part of that is just understanding what you need to know next and going out there and finding the resources and setting up your own schedule. It's a tough transition, but that's what makes the difference between being stuck at the plateau and going above and making it to fluency. Yeah. Honestly, as a trilingual person, I feel like the more you use the language, right, the more words you learn and try implementing them, the better you get at it. 100%. That's how I learned Russian, English, and Persian. First of all, amazing that you're trilingual. I'm jealous. I'm just 2.2 by 2.2 lingual. English, Japanese, and some really bad French because I grew up in Canada. And 100%, like, using the language is what will ultimately help make the words yours and help you become more fluent. But in my opinion, once you're an adult, especially with a language as different as Japanese, you really do have to just study it first. Like, you have to actively study the new vocab, the new grammar, and the new kanji, and review it, and then also be using it in immersion and like in daily conversation, and then it becomes yours and it becomes more solidified in your memory, 100%. But I think there's like two parts to it. You have to do the studying, and you have to do the immersive immersion and actually using it to make it yours. Yeah, I never paid attention to grammar rules or anything. Like, 100%. Like, some people are just better at languages. Maybe you were young as well. I'm not totally familiar with English, Persian and Russian, but they're probably more linguistically similar than English and Japanese. Like, English and Japanese are just so different. They're just so different. It's very difficult for an adult or even like a teenager to pick it up naturally. So if you go to ranking of difficult languages for English speakers, yeah, hardest language to learn for a native English speaker: Mandarin, Chinese, Arabic, Japanese, Korean, Cantonese. And if you actually go to like a list that'll rank like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if we can find it. Oh my goodness, the ads out here. This one doesn't have it, but oftentimes you'll find that the most difficult language for, okay, this one has it as number 3, but depending on whatever resource you use, the most difficult language for an English learner to learn, or sorry, an English speaker to learn, is Japanese. It's just so different. The grammar's different. The pronunciation is not so bad, which makes it like okay. But then like, so the grammar's backwards. It has the character system like Chinese has, which is terrible for like a learner. And the readings are inconsistent as well. Like at least with Chinese, like the characters are almost always read the same way. But with Japanese, it's just a free-for-all out there. They'll change the readings on you for anything. So that adds another layer of difficulty. So that's what also makes it especially difficult as an English speaker to learn Japanese naturally, if you're already an adult especially. Do you take Adderall to help you study? No, I do not. But if you have ADHD and you find it helps, then maybe you should consider it. Is Korean harder than Japanese? In my opinion, it's not. I haven't learned both, so I can't say for sure, but I mean, Japanese just has the kanji. I'd say they're like identical, except for Japanese has kanji. And Korean probably has slightly harder pronunciation. So that does make Korean a little bit harder, but I think the characters outweigh the pronunciation. All right, let's go to the next question. Thank you for your question. Very important question that a lot of people have about finishing a resource and not having anything next to do. So hopefully I was able to answer your question a bit. Okay, so how do you use Take Him's guide? I've tried using it, but I just end up reading a page and then moving on to the next one and forgetting it, unfortunately. Boom Pro, on the other hand, has an SRS function, which I fancy more. I mean, fair enough. Like, if you find that another resource helps you. I've never used Boom Pro. I haven't heard of it before, but an SRS, like, that sounds fantastic. Like, if you've seen my Duolingo video, you'll know that I really support using SRSs for review, which Duolingo doesn't really do. They say they have one, but it's not that effective in my opinion. So SRS I think is great. I'd say that is a downfall of using Take Him's guide, is that, you know, it's literally just a grammar guide. Like, it's not gonna review for you. You're gonna have to review on your own when you need to. So if you do find that you're forgetting, like, you can either put, say, if you wanted to use Take Him's guide, you can use the grammar, you can put it in an Anki deck to do the SRS for you. But yeah, if Boom Pro or some other resource does it for you, then that sounds great. Do that. The way I would do it is I would just read Take Him's guide, maybe use Anki if I want to get the review system, but I'd probably just read through the guide and then reread it and then reread it, like, as time passes, right? You know, just naturally be my own review. And I'll look up grammar online as well to teach it to me. So I'll just get that consistent exposure to the grammar. And hello, Nora. Thanks for joining us all the way from Europe. Japanese teaching is going all right. You know, we're just getting started, 30 minutes in. So we're just getting cooking. And Hypin Sensei, please do not spam the chat. All right. Racism. So do I face racism? I do actually answer this in a previous video, but if you would like to know another an in-depth answer, then please put it in the question, in the link, the pinned link, and I can answer it in greater depth. I have learned Korean and it is a lot easier than Japanese. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. I'm glad that you also find the same thing. I mean, at the end of the day, just having an alphabet is just so huge, I think. Japanese just likes to torment foreigners with their character system, although it is fun. Like, now that, like, I've learned the kanji, I do like it. Like, it's just fun. It's just like being able to speak your own, like, code, you know? It's like Nihongo kanji. Just type in some random shit, but like, just like, it just like feels like my own code that now I can understand, you know? So it is fun, but it's just a huge hurdle to get over in the beginning. So objectively, I would think Japanese is a lot tougher, despite Korean having slightly more difficult pronunciation. All right, I'll move on to the next question. How do I make sure I learn the actual Japanese that is prominently used by the Japanese people as compared to the usual textbook Japanese? Very good question, and one that comes up, I think, in learning almost any language. I mean, like if you read, Japanese people will tell me this all the time, but if you read like an English textbook, like as a Japanese person trying to learn English, it'll be like, "Hi, how are you? My name is Tokuyuu. How are you doing?" And it's like, it's obviously, it's not natural. No one speaks like that. That's like literally ChatGPT. Even ChatGPT sounds more natural than that. That's kind of the downfall of learning from textbooks. Although I do like that Take Him's guide. It is very speaker oriented. Like he's literally starting off by teaching you da, which is like the casual form. He's literally just teaching you the raw grammar. Whereas most textbooks will start you off with des, which is the polite form, because they really want foreigners just to be polite and learn that first. Even though to me, I don't think learning the polite form first makes a lot of sense linguistically, because it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to go from casual to formal, just mentally. But yeah, so how do you learn the actual Japanese? So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to pick a resource that's reputable. Like if you pick up just some random Japanese textbook that's like $5 on eBay, you know, it's probably going to mislead you here and there, and it's going to teach you some weird stuff. So one, if you want to learn through a textbook, and I think learning through a textbook is totally fine, pick a reputable textbook. And two, understand that yes, what you learn in a textbook is not always going to be 100% natural for a native speaker. But the important thing is that you're learning the system. Like, the point of learning grammar is to learn how the language works as like a pattern, right? So if you can understand how the pattern works, which the textbook will teach you, yeah, you're going to sound a little bit uptight at first. Like you're not going to sound super natural because you're just literally treating Japanese as a math problem, right? You're just like, okay, the word goes here, conjugate here, and sentence. And it's going to come out really slow and like awkward. But I think it's a good way to build a base. And then once you get to like a decent, like, you know, upper beginner level, then you start listening to some basic Japanese, like podcasts or YouTube videos, like really basic ones. And as your level goes up, you can increase the amount that you immerse with the videos or saying actually conversing to Japanese people. And ultimately that immersion will help filter out what is actually used by native speakers, because you're literally listening to native speakers. Ultimately, like, yeah, textbooks can make you feel a little bit uptight in like how you speak, but it's like, it's hard as a textbook, right? Because you're just teaching the rules. You can't perfectly teach natural Japanese. So I would just say, learn the rules first, understand that your Japanese is going to sound a little bit uptight at first, but it's totally natural. And then once you get to a certain level and you get more and more immersion, then you can start listening to what's the real Japanese and just kind of cut out the stiffer Japanese that you don't need anymore. But having that original base of grammar and understanding of how the patterns work will, I think, in my opinion, and for me personally, how it worked for me, will help you pick up the language faster. Nice, keep it up. Thank you, Nora. Appreciate your support always. What's a website that's web-based, like not an app that I could use it on my PC? I mean, a bunch of stuff. I mean, it depends what you're asking for in particular. But Anki you can use on your PC. It could be app or PC. Take Him's Guide is on your PC. Really depends what you're looking for. I just entered the live. Greetings from Uruguay. Thank you, Santia, if that's how you pronounce your name. Appreciate you coming all the way from South America. It's probably really early for you, so definitely appreciate you waking up on a Sunday to join us. Welcome to the chat. Kore wa pen desu. Yeah, I know, straight up. Very boring name, yeah. That's literally like what you're gonna learn, right? Kore wa pen desu. Like, and honestly, okay, how do we get this out here? Yeah, so this is like the classic, like, I think, where did it come from? Do you know? Like, it's not actually from a Japanese textbook. I think it actually comes from an English textbook for Japanese people. Because like Japanese people will always like meme, like when they're trying to like speak English to me, they're like, all the textbook ever teaches me is how to say, this is a pen. And it's like, it's not good Japan, like it's not good English, it's not natural. And I guess the Japanese equivalent would be like, kore wa pen desu. This is a pen. And you wouldn't really say this like, kore wa pen desu. Like, first of all, like, when would you ever need to tell someone that this is a pen? Like, if someone doesn't know that this is a pen, you're either speaking to a 2-year-old or I don't know, they've just lived in a cave for their entire lives. So first of all, you wouldn't even say this is a pen. Second of all, if you were to say it, you wouldn't say kore wa. You just say pen desu. That's the most natural. Pen desu is a pen. Literally is a pen. You don't even say this in Japanese for the most part. So that's why it'll sound a little bit stiff when you learn from a textbook. But I still think it is beneficial to learn, okay, why would it technically make sense to say kore wa? And then as you get more immersed, then it'll be like, oh, okay, Japanese people just say pen desu. I can get rid of the kore wa, which I think is easier than just like learning pen desu right from the start. Because then if you try to add this later on, if it's like a different case where it does make sense to include it, the kore wa, then you're like, hey, why do I say it now? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So even though textbooks can be a little bit stiff in the beginning, I think it's still good to get the rules, the knowledge in here, and then you can just cut it out later. It's a lot easier that way, in my opinion. Yeah, the polite form first I also don't see as beneficial, but learning proper textbook grammar first is so important to be able to speak everyday Japanese confidently. Thank you, Nora. I appreciate you backing me up. And just so you guys know, Nora is a freaking Japanese speaking expert. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and she could answer them as well, just as well as I could. But yeah, I mean, polite form, like, I don't know, like textbooks and like a lot of Japanese teachers like to teach the polite form first, I think, because they just want their students to not be rude foreigners in Japan. They just really want them to speak politely. But yeah, in my opinion, it doesn't make logical sense from a grammar standpoint. And yeah, I'm glad you think that learning grammar first is so important. I think it's really underrated. Like, if I were to name one thing that's very underrated in language learning, at least for Japanese, it's the grammar. Like, it is the foundation to everything. And I know a lot of people obsessed with the fantasy of just watching anime and becoming fluent from doing that, or just talking to people and picking it up naturally. But ultimately, just learning the boring ass textbook grammar will really give you a solid foundation for you to start building on top of it. And then you can cut out the unnatural, stiff, textbooky stuff afterwards once you've immersed. It's just so much more effective than trying to like learn Japanese the easy way of just watching anime or whatever. So thank you, Nora, for backing me up. Sorry for spamming. No worries, bro. And remember to put your questions in the link. If you're James Bond and it's not actually a pen, then like if this is like secretly like a blow dart and you like take down your enemies, then you would still say this is a pen because you don't want to give away your cover, right? So you're still gonna say kore wa pen desu. You're not gonna say this is a blow dart. Like, come on. You don't want to blow your cover. All right, we're moving on to the next question. Thank you for the very good question. Everyone always asks this. It's very important. All right. Okay, I lived in Japan for 2 years in Osaka. I am moving to Okinawa next week. I want to meet you, bro, before moving. Things, the more I'm watching China, I'm getting obsessed to go to China and learning Mandarin. I mean, that's great. I mean, if I do, maybe in the future, maybe once I get a little bit bigger, I'll do like maybe like a meet and greet kind of event. I can host something like that in the future, where if you guys are in Osaka, or say I visit Tokyo, I can host it there, maybe a little more accessible to people. Then I can host something like that and we can like do a meet and greet and just actually talk in person. For now, I guess the live stream is like the best way we can do it. Because I mean, I appreciate all the supporters I have, but honestly, if I did like a meet and greet like right now, I feel like I would get like maybe 2 people to come out, you know? So just in honor of my pride, I would like to wait till I'm a little bit bigger in terms of influence And then I can maybe do like a meet and greet in the future, and then, you know, get like a solid group out, and it can be more of like a nice community gathering. So maybe sometime in the future, that would be nice. Those two would be Ben and Ruby, literally. It would just be my homies straight up. It's like, meet and greet with Tokuyuu. Oh, it's just my friends in Osaka. So like, that's what it'd be. And honestly, that would be kind of chill, because then we could just like hang out. But it would also kind of defeat the purpose of doing the meet and greet. So we're gonna wait till I'm a little bit bigger, and then we can do something like that if there's enough demand for it, you know? But I appreciate you wanting to meet me. I'm flattered. And good luck with the move to Okinawa. Hope it goes well. All right. How do I say something like, you're too kind? You're too kind. So if, say, like someone says, like, they compliment you, like, it's just gonna make me laugh every time I look at it. So say they say, かっこいいですね. It's like they say, oh, かっこいい, which means like, oh, you're handsome or you're cool. かっこいいですね. So how would you say like, oh, like, you're too nice, you're too kind? I'm assuming this is the situation that you're asking to use it, because that's how I would use it in English. So great question, and it's a very Japanese way of thinking. Like, oh, you're too kind. Like, oh no, I'm not that handsome, I'm not that good looking. So in Japanese, you would typically, okay, let me give you the literal answer first and then the real answer. So if you wanted to say, you're too kind, just make sure this is as visible as possible. And let's just draw a line here just so we know this is a pen, is a different thought here. So you're too kind. Let's get this zoom in right. Okay. So you're too kind would literally be 優しすぎる. 優しすぎる. Okay. 優しすぎる. And just so we are all clear, we're gonna write the furigana here. やさ 優しすぎる. So to be kind is 優しい, which is an E adjective. And to say to, it's すぎる, which is like too much. So when it's an E adjective, like 優しい, normally there'd be an E here. 優しい, that's nice. So with E adjective, you drop the E and just add すぎる. And that's how you say too much of something. So 優しい is nice or kind. So 優しすぎる is you're too kind. So 優しすぎる. So you can say that. So かっこいいですね. You could say 優しすぎる or 優しすぎます. So that would be the literal way you would say too kind. But the more natural way that Japanese people would say would be like いえ Literally, no. Oh, you're so handsome. No. Yeah. But it doesn't sound like that in Japanese. It sounds a lot more natural. Just like, oh, no. Yeah. Like, I'm not that handsome. Or what else would they say? Yeah. そんなことない. You could say that as well. そんなことない. そんなことない. It's like literally like, oh, that's not the case. そんなことない. Or like そんなにかっこよくない. Like, oh, I'm not that handsome. So instead of just saying, oh, you're too kind, the more Japanese way of saying it is like, oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not that handsome or whatever. So that's another thing. Like I mentioned this in my other stream as well, that like there's two parts of learning Japanese, right? So there's the part of knowing the words, right? So 優しい, right? That's to be kind. 優しすぎる, to be too kind. Okay, so I know grammatically 優しすぎる is you're too kind. So that's part one, knowing the correct vocab or conjugation. Second part is then knowing, okay, what do Japanese people actually say? What sounds the most natural? So かっこいいです. So even if you know 優しすぎる, in this case, you can totally use it. It's 100% fine and people will understand you. It doesn't sound weird. But if you wanted to sound 100% natural, most people would just say いいえ or そんなことない、そんなかっこよくない. So part 1 is knowing the correct vocab. Part 2 is actually knowing what Japanese people would use there and what sounds natural. And this kind of comes back to our earlier question, which is honestly why we talked about kore wa pen desu. Like when you learn textbook Japanese, you're going to learn the literal way to say things and to conjugate things and the vocab. And that's part 1. And part 2, ultimately, you're just going to have immersion and actually converse with people. And then you'll learn what actually sounds natural to a Japanese person. And that's just going to come with time. But that doesn't mean that learning yasashi sugiru was like a waste of time, because there are cases when you would use it. And the fact that you know what yasashi is will definitely help you in the future, because that's a very common word. And the conjugation of sugiru is used all the time in other cases as well. So yeah, that's just how it works in Japanese. And this is how you would generally say, oh, you're too kind. How about ご丁寧に? So ご丁寧に. So ご丁寧に. So to me, I've never said this, honestly. It's very polite Japanese, like very respectful Japanese. ご丁寧, so 丁寧. Let me write this down for everybody. So 丁寧. This browser keeps moving on me. Okay, okay, my handwriting is so shit. 丁寧. Okay. ご丁寧に. So 丁寧literally means to be polite or kind. But ご丁寧に, it means, I think it is more like please be kind. ご丁寧に. So this is pretty advanced. Like you would pretty much never need to know this, but ご is like the honorific prefix for a lot of these kanji compounds. So there's 丁寧, which means kind. Then ご丁寧 is just like you're being polite while you're saying the word 丁寧. And then に in this case is more like please do it like this, essentially. So if you're saying ご丁寧に, it's like please be kind is what I believe that would mean. ご丁寧に. And when you would actually use this, I mean, I don't know. If you're like scolding a child, like please like be more kind, ご丁寧に, or like go easy on me, but I think that's again another word. But yeah, you wouldn't say it in this case of you're too kind. There's a slightly different nuance. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question that we have in the marshmallows. But thank you for your questions and comments, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, what do you think about Cure Dolly lessons? So I actually got this question in my first stream, and I didn't know who it was. So I said, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. But because I got that question, I did some research and like looked into her. So apparently Cure Dolly is another YouTuber who teaches Japanese. And I think specifically she teaches Japanese grammar. Like a lot of different, I guess, topics of Japanese grammar, typically. And I think they're a faceless channel. And there's like, it's kind of like an AI generated voice, or it's a voice changer of sorts. I mean, I looked at the content, and the content, it seems good. Like, I mean, I think they are a Japanese person teaching. I can't remember if it was in Japanese or in English. It might have actually been in Japanese, but I can't remember. I'm sorry. But either way, the content itself was good. I found it was accurate. For me, the voice was like a little bit different. Like you have to get used to listening to that voice. But I mean, that's beside the point. If it works for you, then yeah. I mean, if what they teach is helpful to you and you can learn it that way, then totally like, yeah, use them as a resource. It's just, I think it's a matter of preference. But I would say their content is reliably correct from the 1 or 2 videos I watched. Hey Tokuyuu, I'm going to Japan in 7 months. to a language school. Actually, I'm so nervous. I need to get N2 in 18 months to get in Senmon Gakko. Do you think it's possible, N2 in 18 months? Right, so I get a lot of questions about, can I achieve level of Japanese in a certain period of time? So N2 in 18 months, it depends on a few factors. First of all, yes, I do believe. Here, let me switch this just so you're more in the room with me. So first of all, yes, it is possible, but there are several factors that are going to affect how realistic it is. Okay, first of all, do you understand Chinese or Korean? If you're a Chinese or Korean speaker, you get a huge shortcut to learning Japanese, because with Chinese, you know the characters already. With Korean, very similar grammar, and a lot of vocab is similar as well. So it's a huge head start. That will help speed it up. If you don't speak those languages, like me, it'll make it tougher, especially N2 is second highest level, right? So you're gonna need to know, here, let me actually switch this back so we can look specifically at what N2 requires. N2 requirements, but it's around 1,000 kanji. Here it's saying 500, which I think is honestly wrong, unless they made it a lot easier. I think it's talking about 500 additional kanji, actually. Yeah. Because I remember the tests always say like how much additional you need, and you need to know the previous kanji. So that's not super helpful. Yeah, right here, 1,000 in total. Okay, so about 6,000 vocab in total. So it's probably going to be a little bit small for you. Let me try zooming that in more. But what Go Nihon says, so for if you want to know N2, if you want to pass N2, you need to know roughly 6,000 vocab and about 1,000 kanji. So 18 months, so that's a year and a half, right? So that's about 500 days. I mean, what, you need to learn 2 kanji a day. You probably want some review in there, so learn 2 kanji a day at least. Probably a little bit faster, so you're not learning kanji the day before the test. You probably want to finish it a bit earlier and then review more soon. Say about 3 kanji a day, and then vocab, you know, you want to learn maybe like 12 a day, maybe 15 a day, again, to have a little bit of time for review. 15 vocab a day if you're starting from 0, and 3 kanji a day is doable. In my opinion, it's doable, but it's going to be tough because learning 3 kanji a day and 12 or 15 new words a day is no laughing matter if you're just starting off. Once you're at an intermediate level and you're in the swing of how to study, then that kind of pace I'd say is like very reasonable. But especially in the beginning, it's going to be tough learning 3 characters that you don't even know the language of yet, and probably not their associated vocab either. So it'll be tough. So it really comes down to how much time are you willing to put into it. It is possible, but so you're going to Japan in 7 months to go to a language school. So if you're going to, so it depends if that 18 months starts from when you go to the language school or if it starts from now. Either way, I would start learning Japanese right now. Like, if you can, even if you're working full-time or studying full-time, start learning Japanese on the side for sure in those 7 months. Give yourself as much of a head start as you can get. And it is possible, but it just depends how much time you put into it. Because definitely I would agree, if you're doing Senmon Gakko, which is like, I don't even know how you'd translate that. It's basically community college. Senmon Gakko. English. Vocational school, trade school, right? So like for your crafts, is that the right word? Trades, probably. More like hands-on jobs. Artists, crafts, like plumbers or carpenters, or you know, all that good stuff. You definitely, I would say, want to have at least N2, right? Because you want to understand what people are saying, like what your teachers are teaching you. So it is possible, but I would put in a lot of work to make it happen. Learning 3 kanji a day is doable. Remembering the 3 kanji from 3 months ago, on the other hand, exactly. Yeah, very good point. Very boring name. Like, you can, like, 3 kanji a day is very doable. And again, if you just like split it up, like, okay, 500 days, 3 kanji a day, like, oh, we'll get to 1,000 in time, totally. And we'll have like 3 or like 6 months to spare. But yeah, like, again, learning the like 3 kanji a day for the first time is different from actually being able to know the 3 kanji forever and be able to like use it on a test and read it fast enough, right? So that's why you need to not only learn 3 kanji, but you have to review the past kanji as well. So you have to be really diligent in doing it. And thank you so much, Joseph, for being a Sakura supporter. Appreciate you for becoming a member. Enjoy your emotes. Appreciate the support. Look, I am 20 now, 3rd year student at uni, but in 2027, I want to go to Japan to language school. For N3 now, I am N4, but I got questions. Yeah, if you have questions, like it's in the pinned comment in the chat, or you can use the QR code on the screen and feel free to ask your questions. And congrats on being N4 already. Good job. Would you recommend learning another language on top of Japanese after N3? Depends on your priority. If you want to get fluent in Japanese, then just sticking to Japanese is better, right? Because, you know, the extra time that you put into learning the other language is going to ultimately get taken away from learning Japanese. So if you want to get fluent in one language as quickly as possible, then I would say don't. But if you're just doing it because you have fun, like I have a friend who's like very much a polyglot, and he's a very high level of Japanese, like basically my level. And he learns like 5 languages at the same time. So if it works for you, then it works for you, right? For me, I know that would not work for me. I would just get confused. Like Japanese was hard enough for me on its own as it was. So I preferred to just stick to Japanese, even though I was curious about learning Spanish or Chinese or Korean. But it's just more efficient in general to learn one language. But sometimes like it's easy to get bored. I get it if you've been learning a language for so long, like to get up to N3 level. But yeah, it just depends what your priorities are. All right, next question. Thank you for your questions. And thank you again, Joseph. Hi, I am a 14-year-old Italian boy and I decided to study Japanese in high school. And when I will start studying, I'm sure this video be helpful. I'm sure these videos will be helpful. Great to hear. And amazing that you're starting your Japanese learning journey off early. Like I only started when I was 18, which is still pretty young. But like starting off when you're 14, just like even more of a head start. And your brain is more flexible too, right? Because you're younger. So you should be able to pick it up faster. And it's amazing that your high school offers Japanese courses, because a lot don't. Like my high school didn't offer a Japanese class. And if it did, I probably would have taken it. I wasn't as interested in Japanese culture at that point, but I mean, I played enough video games like Nintendo, and like anime was cool too. So I probably would have taken it. So it's nice that your high school offers it. But yeah, check out my videos and hopefully they point you in a good direction. And yeah, all the best on your studying. That's amazing. Keep my mouth hydrated so we can get through the stream. Get through the stream without me choking on my saliva. Okay, long question. Might be a little hard for you guys to read, but I'll read it out. So, hi Tokuyuu, I have a couple questions. First, regarding Japanese composite verbs, I haven't seen that aspect of language covered and systemized enough for foreign learners of the language. Do you just pick them up and remember naturally? Have you found your ways of dealing with those during your more advanced learning? And 2, what are the aspects of language that you still find most challenging at this point of your language learning? Thanks, Renata. All right, thank you, Renata, for your question. So by composite verbs, I'm guessing you mean like the... allow Google to know my location. Why do you need my location, Google? Lock. Okay, so composite verbs, I'm guessing you mean like the... when they're like kind of like attached. Let me just double check that. Japanese composite verbs, because I actually haven't heard that term before, but I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. Yeah, if we're talking about like the compound verbs, yeah, like komu is a common one. Let's try to get some examples out here. Like, yeah, okay, these are classic ones. All right, hopefully you guys can see this all right. So yeah, examples. So like by composite words, apparently like officially they're called compound verbs, but I got you. So they're basically like 2 verbs connected. So norikairu is an example. And like they say here, noru is to ride, transportation, and kairu is to change or interchange. So norikairu is to transfer. And there's like a bunch of these that's all over in Japanese. Taberuku, like to eat and walk. Miyageru, to look up. Wakariau, to like understand each other. Again, it's like wakaru, to understand, and ao, to like come together, fit or match, as they write here. And together, wakariau means to understand each other. Yeah. So don't think it's systemized enough. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just its own vocab. Like I wouldn't, like a lot of these are sensical, like norikairu. Like I think all of these here are sensical, right? Because like to take a transportation and to interchange, combine it together, it's to transfer, right? It makes sense. Tabearuku, it's like a combination of to eat and walk, and it means to eat and walk. This one says try out foods at various restaurants. I don't know about that one. But again, like it could be a great example of, for the most part, it makes sense, right? It's just literally the combination of the two verbs that are in that word. But it's probably safer to just learn it as its own vocab. And if you have like Anki decks, then they will be treated as their own words. So you'll learn noru, you'll learn kairu, and you'll learn norikairu. And just learn that norikairu means transfer. And the fact that it is sensical and that it's literally just made up of two words that become transfer helps you remember it better. So my advice would be to learn them individually. And second, you mentioned that we don't really have it in other languages, but I'm pretty sure we do, because it might not be the exact same, but Japanese people always complain to me that the composite verbs in English don't make sense to them. And I'm trying to think of what they were. It's like to, well, let me get the whiteboard out. So like examples like in English would be like to, okay, here's one. Now I want to, wrap up. It's technically not two verbs, but like wrap and wrap up. Okay, so wrap. Okay, what is wrap? Okay, wrap is like, okay, you're wrapping like a present. Okay, you're covering it with like wrapping paper. Wrap up, and then suddenly it means to finish something up, like to finish. Like what? Why did it become wrap, and then you just add up and it becomes to finish? Like there's this confusing aspect in English, and there's so many of these words like this that I've literally seen meme videos about it. Like to talk up. Like talk up, and like this was a better example. So talk up. So when you talk up somebody, you're speaking highly of them. You're talking them up. You're gassing them up. Like, oh, you're amazing, dude. But if you say talk down, you talk down to somebody. Well, now you're just insulting them, right? And like to native English speaker, like it makes sense. Like, okay, talk up. Like it sounds positive. You're talking them up, and then talk down. You're like maybe looking down at them. But for a non-native speaker, it's not that sensical. And you basically, I'm not qualified to teach English, but I would guess you just need to learn it as its own vocab, similar to the Japanese compound verbs. Like, yeah, you can know the word for talk and you can know the word for down, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know what it means to talk down. So you're just going to have to learn this as its own vocab. And similarly, in Japanese, you're just going to have to learn these compound verbs as their own vocab. But for the most part, they make sense when they come together. Yeah. And two, what are the aspects of the language that you still find the most challenging at this point in your learning? It would be vocab, learning new vocab. Like a lot of people stress with the kanji. I mentioned this in my last stream. But the kanji is definitely a huge hurdle to begin with, because there's just like, oh, there's just so many like characters. Like, oh my god, I gotta know this one and this one and this one and this one. But at the end of the day, there's about 2,200 you need to know for everyday Japanese. And even though that is a lot and it's overwhelming at first as a learner, you will learn them, right? And once you know all those kanji, yeah, you're always gonna get new kanji that are like kind of weird and not often used, and you have to look that up. But it's very rare compared to new vocab. Like vocab, I think it's like you need to know at least 10,000 for N1, but like the actual average Japanese person, so 10,000 for N1, okay? Keep that in mind. You need to know 10,000 for N1. How many do you think you need to know? How many do you think a native speaker knows? I'll give you as long as it takes me to look this up to make your guess. How many words does the average Japanese speaker know? All right, I'll give you 3 more seconds to think about it. 20,000 to 50,000. 20,000 to 50,000 words. So if we just take like the rough average, 35,000 words, and you need to know 10,000 for N1. That's ridiculous. You could pass the highest level of Japanese proficiency on paper, and you still are only a third, not even, of the way there. Like, that is the toughest part about Japanese, is that learning words is so endless. Like, you can know like 95% of the language by knowing those first 10,000. It's not proportional. Like, if you get N1, like, you know more than like a third of the Japanese language for sure, like in terms of like utility. But in terms of the words that the average Japanese person knows and could potentially use, there's always new words that come up that it's like, bro, I've been studying for 12 years and I still don't like know what the hell you're saying right now. So that's a challenge. But it's just the nature of learning languages, right? Like, it's never a completed process. Like, even for English, like, I'm learning new words all the time in English, and I'm learning new ways to express myself. And, oh, this phrase feels more accurate in how to express myself in this situation, right? So even if with our native languages, it's a never-ending process, language learning, but especially for a second language, just because you don't have as much comfort with it and not as much time put into it, that it's just the endless process. But, you know, it's part of what makes it fun, right? It's an endless adventure. So sometimes it's like, I don't know this word, I've been studying for so long, are you kidding me? But it's also what makes it a nice challenge, and you always get to learn something, and that's always gives you a feeling of satisfaction. Yeah, very boring name, like 2,000. Like, you'd think like it'd be a more reasonable number for the number of words, but yeah, it's a lot. Damn is right, Bianca. Damn is right. It's a good thing a lot of words stem from English. Yeah, honestly, like, good thing katakana exists, because that's like when you're like, hey, what is the word for computer in Japanese? You look it up. It's like computer. Yes. Okay, free vocab. Let's go. And there's a lot like that, especially at the higher level as well, because like a lot of advanced words are like, say, like psychology terminology that are like from the West or whatever, and since they didn't exist in Japan before, it'll typically be in English, so it makes your life a little bit easier. But, you know, it's still an endless project to learn new words. This object is a writing implement. Yeah, exactly. This is a pen. You can just say it in like multiple ways, and like, freaking, how would you know, right? You know, how would you know the word implement? Like, you know, for the most part, unless you just like happen to come up earlier, but there's always new words you could learn. Katakana low-key Pimo. What is Pimo? That's a good thing then, yeah. It's clutch. All right, next question. Thank you for your question. Definitely an interesting one, and hopefully I was able to help you out with the initial one on how to learn the compound verbs. Piss me off, case. Not good then. The pronunciation can be tough, but it's free vocab. It's not bad. All right, next question. I'm aiming for an exchange semester and JLPT N4 by the end of the year. I took a 1-year course but made little progress. Now I'm balancing getting my master's degree and a part-time job. Anything I should prioritize in my self-study to be the most efficient with my limited time? Balancing getting a master's degree and a part-time job. Yeah, very fair, very fair. So it's a very real question. So N4 by the end of the year, which sounds very reasonable, and it is very doable. because it's only March, so that still gives you like 8.5 months to go. Or maybe it's 10.5 months. No, it's 9.5. Yeah, 9.5 months, which is plenty of time to get N4. But this is the real part of the question. It's like you're going to school, getting your master's degree. Congratulations. That's amazing. You're getting such high level education and doing a part-time job, right? So probably your master's, I imagine, is probably full-time on its own because you're maybe taking courses and doing research at the same time. And you're doing part-time outside of that. So that's a lot of time commitment. And on top of that, which you didn't write down, but you definitely do have, is other life commitments. Like you probably want to hang out with your friends, or you probably want to spend time with your family, and you probably you want to just relax sometimes, you know? And then you got to learn Japanese, right? And you want to go to the gym, you know? This is like the classic problem with trying to learn anything in life, is just life gets in the way. So anything I should prioritize in my self-study to be more efficient with my limited time. So first of all, N4 by the end of the year is very doable. I'd say first of all, instead of putting off how you could be most efficient, for sure you do have limited time. The most important thing in my opinion is you need to make a schedule that you can stick to every day. Right? Because if you're doing like this master's degree and your part-time job and your other life commitments, it's going to be hard to study. Like I'd be impressed if you could study an hour a day, right? Like that'd be a lot, I imagine. Possible, but you know, you have other things you want to do. So figure out what a reasonable amount of studying is that you can commit to every day. Even if it's just like 20 or 30 minutes. Figure out what that number is and make sure you commit to it. Because since you don't have a lot of time every day, you need to make sure you stack up that little time every day. And you can only do that if you commit to studying every day. So figure out what that time is first, okay? Okay, say it's 30 minutes. You can commit 30 minutes a day, every day. What should I prioritize? So I do have a video on how to get started learning Japanese. I mean, you took a 1-year course but made little progress. So it depends where you're at. It kind of sounds like you kind of want to start from the beginning almost. If you do want to start from the beginning again, you can watch my video on how to start learning Japanese from nothing. Excuse me. You probably already know the kana, I imagine, in the basic pronunciation, so you can skip, you know, whatever you don't need. But prioritize learning N5, grammar, vocab, kanji, right? Like you got to learn it all. I mean, you're taking a exchange semester and you want N4. So if you're doing an exchange, I mean, your main goal is to speak to people. So eventually you want to get better listening and speaking, which you would think like, okay, then just do more listening and speaking practice. But listening and speaking practice isn't that helpful when you're at the very beginning. So at the end of the day, you're just going to have to study your basic N5 and N4, just the way you normally would. To be the most efficient, yeah, like I have all my stuff in that video, like use an SRS for vocab, probably the same for kanji as well. Learn grammar and review it. Just make sure you understand how the language works and you'll get there. Like again, like N5, N4, it's all just made of the same stuff: vocab, grammar, kanji. And then once you get to like a more comfortable level in N4, like even if you're halfway through it, then start introducing just like a little bit of like conversation, like really basic listening practice, basic speaking. And that'll probably help warm you up a little bit more in preparation for your exchange. But I think this is a really reasonable goal. Like N4 by the end of the year, when you already have such a huge workload in your life, like I'm glad you're not asking for N2 by the end of the year, because that would be really tough. N4 is very reasonable. You just got to stick to it every day. A master's degree in psychology, if that changes anything. Oh, okay, Bianca, so this is your question. Yeah, well, congratulations on going for your master's degree in psychology. That's amazing. Keep up the great work. Hi, brother. What is up? Ryzen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. I gotta go now because it's almost iftar time. Catch you guys later. Thanks for joining us, Sarum. Always appreciate you coming out. What is up, Tactical Cookie? Please put your question in the pinned comments in the chat so I can get to it appropriately. Thanks for all the advice. Very helpful. Glad to hear it. Yeah, glad I could help you out. And good luck. I appreciate you. thanks for being a member. You didn't have to become a member just because I answered your question, but I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. And good luck on your masters and your N4. It's amazing that you're definitely, it sounds like you're a high achiever, so keep up the great work. You clearly know how to push yourself. All right, let's go for the next question then. Okay, this seems like a life in Japan question, so I am going to save that for later. Make sure this is, yep. Okay, this is showing properly. Can you try Busu? Maybe Bushu. I have no idea. Busu. I'm curious if it's as bad as Duolingo. It would be interesting to see a video about it. So I'm actually, maybe I have heard about that. Maybe I've heard about it in a comments as well. Busu. I don't know why is it called Busu, because Busu literally means like ugly in Japanese. Bus. Maybe it's not actually Japan based, because it looks like they have like a bunch of languages here. I wonder what language it is, because it just sounds like ugly in Japanese. Yeah. I mean, if enough people like use it and are curious, I could potentially check it out in the future and give my like full feedback. But basically, like if you've seen my Duolingo video, which it sounds like you have, thanks for watching. Ultimately, my gripes that I have with Duolingo applies to any language learning app. They need to be able to address all those issues that I find with Duolingo. And for those of you who haven't watched that video yet, like a lot of the main ones is, one, not enough content. It's so slow and they don't teach you a lot. So first of all, would Busu have enough content? Okay, especially if they're doing like all these languages, you know, if it's geared towards like, say for English speakers, like, you know, being able to teach Spanish or French or German is a lot easier. So they're usually a lot stronger for those languages. And then like Japanese and Korean are just kind of like throw on, so they can say like their app teaches like 20 languages, but they're only good at like 2 or 3. So I'm a little bit skeptical, honestly, because they teach so many languages, because Japanese is not a language to be taken lightly as an English speaker. So the fact that it's just like one of 6, 12, 15 potentially languages, probably it's a little bit suspicious. But you know, let's not judge too quickly. You know, if you watch the Duolingo video, does it address all those issues? Does it teach content at a good pace? Does it do enough review for you? Does it teach you real practical Japanese as well? Because the Duolingo Japanese is really questionable. Yasashii shato, kakkui bengoshi. Not very helpful. And it doesn't teach grammar. Does Busu teach grammar? Don't know. And if it does it teach it properly? And does it teach it to a high enough level? So these are all questions that, you know, you could ask yourself as well if you watched my video. But yeah, if enough people are curious about it, then, you know, I could check it out in the future. Of course, I had to become a member for the emotes. Yeah, enjoy your emotes. Big brain, you know. This is my favorite. So these emotes, like I actually had friends who made emotes from my face, from my videos, like back in like Discord, like 5-6 years ago when I was just like playing video games online. Did not do any live streaming at all at that point. They just like to make memes out of like the faces I made for my videos. So these emotes are pretty much all inspired from them. So yeah, enjoy them. Big brain. Hi, brother. What is up, Ryzen? All right, let me refresh my inbox. So we got 5 minutes left for Japanese language questions. This is a good question right here. Good question, good question. If you could go back in time, what mistakes would you try to avoid while learning Japanese? So, okay, I was seeing something. Okay, sent gift memberships. Thank you, Bianca, for the gift membership. Appreciate it. Feeling very generous, eh? Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for dropping that for Hong. That's awesome. Appreciate the love in the chat. All right, so back to the question at hand. If you could go back in time, what mistakes would you try to avoid while learning Japanese? Yeah, so amazing question. And this is honestly why I started making my videos. Like, I learned Japanese 100% on my own. Like, I did take a couple courses at university, and I did, have a half Japanese friend to ask, here and there. But for the most part, I just had to figure it out on my own. I'd never really tried to learn a language before, and I wasn't using a textbook, and there weren't a lot of online resources at the time. So a lot of how I learned the language was trial and error. It was really clumsy. I was like, hey, I guess I'll like look up this, and if I heard something I didn't know, I would look it up and like really look into it, and the related grammar would come up, and I'm like, okay, what is that? It was really disorganized. So I'd say the main issue that I had when I tried to learn Japanese before, I would say there's one main issue, is that it wasn't structured enough. I would literally, and it was not structured enough in two main ways. One, the approach was not structured. I would literally, as I just said, I would look up any Japanese I could find online. Okay, I don't know what this grammar is. Okay, what are grammars I don't know? I'd go through the list, I'd look it up. And when I would say, watch this video, say this teacher would mention another word that I didn't know, so I'd look that up. And then when I was looking up that word, then another one came up. Okay, I'll learn that one. And it was just all over the place. And I was learning words and grammar that were not at my level. And so it was really hard to stick with me, because I was just trying to take in so much content, because it really bothered me when I didn't know something. I wanted to know everything. So every time I saw something I didn't know, which was all the time because I just started learning, I would look it up, and it's just too much. Like, it needs to be more structured, especially in the beginning. Like, if you're just starting off, start with learning the basic words, the basic grammar. Like, if you don't know where to start, use a textbook or look up JLPT N5 grammar online, right? And just start at the basic level and go from there and build a base and move up. Because not only are those resources going to be geared towards people who don't know how to learn the language, so that it's going to be very nicely explained, but the most basic words are also the ones that are used most often. So if I'm learning words like, say, taberu, to eat, and aruku, to walk, those are probably N5 words because they're very common. Great. But if I'm looking up like random stuff like miyageru, to look up, wakariau, to understand each other, it's like, yeah, they're words like I should know eventually, but they shouldn't be the first words I know. So I'd say the biggest mistake that I would avoid is I would really get more structured in how to study. Start at the bottom and move up. And I would also be more structured in like how much time I spend, because a lot of times I would just do sprints and then stop and sprints and stop. I'd feel real motivated to study, and I'd study like 5 hours a day. And then I'm like, okay, I got school today, I want to hang out with my friends, I'll study nothing. And the next day, okay, well, I didn't study yesterday, okay, whatever, I'll skip today too, and then kind of fall out of it. And then I'd be like, shit, like I want to get fluent, and I'd be motivated to study like 2 hours and then off and on, which is not very effective. Like, if you watch my video on the secret to learning Japanese, like a big part of it is discipline and just staying on a consistent schedule. So that's something I would also hone in on, is just being able to stick to a more structured schedule. And I probably would have gotten to a high level of Japanese faster that way. Yeah. So I got N1 after like 5.5 years, which is like, I'd say it's like pretty good time, but I probably could have gotten even faster if I was really structured. Yeah. So that's one thing I would do better if I could. But that's why I made my videos. This is literally like the main reason why I started my YouTube channel, is because I went through all this garbage on how to learn the language by myself, that I was like, hey, I want people to know how to effectively learn this language. So instead of just like teaching the grammar itself, I like to focus on guiding people so that they can learn it themselves. Because ultimately, if I taught every grammar, every vocab, I would have like tens of thousands of videos, but like that's not gonna help that many people because it's just like too much. I want to help you learn how to learn the language more effectively, because that's ultimately what's going to, you know, pay off the most in the long run. So yeah, that's why I started making my videos. So hopefully they're helpful for you, and they can help point you in the right direction. And Bianca, feeling very generous, sending 5 gifted memberships. Get out of here. Just spreading so much love out here. Thank you so much, Bianca. And everyone else, enjoy your emotes. Yeah, definitely send some thank yous in the chat to Bianca. Really appreciate you. This is why I wanted to start live streaming, because I really like being able to feel connected to you guys. And I feel like when it's, you know, it's still just, you know, me, you know, talking, but it's really nice being able to see your comments in the chat and, you know, you guys buying memberships for each other. And, you know, it feels like we can actually interact live. So yeah, thank you for being part of this. And Kaylin, makes sense. Strong foundation of the basics and build up from there. Yeah. And this is a man who learned German in frickin' record time. So he knows what he's talking about. Thanks for dropping in, my guy. I appreciate you. This is also the guy who drove me to the frickin' airport when I moved to Japan. He drove me to the airport in Toronto at, I think it was 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. So my guy, not only did he take me to like the pharmacies because he had to get like a COVID check, and like I had like a whole like thing where they didn't approve my COVID test and I had to get another one, and we had to like run around to pharmacies to get a COVID test last minute, and we got it as it was shutting down. Just got that in time. So he ran around with me to get a COVID test, and then like we slept for like 3 hours, and then he woke up again in the middle of the night to drive me to the airport. So shout outs to Kalen. He's a big reason why I'm here. Just helping me physically get into this country. Been a homie since day one, so appreciate you showing some love in the chat too. Thank you for being really kind and helpful. No, I'm glad. If you have any questions, for sure, drop them in the chat anytime, in the Marshmallow as well, in the Q&A. Always happy to answer anything that comes up. This is another reason why I wanted to do the live stream, is so it feels more like we're working on it together. Because when I studied, it was just all me by myself, and you know, it can feel very lonely at times, and you feel like you're the only one struggling, and that's not the case. Like, we're all struggling to learn this language together, but it's a lot more fun when you have others with you. So yeah, anytime you feel stuck or you just have some questions that you're curious about, feel free to drop them. These shout outs, you the best. Right, I forgot about the COVID journey. Yeah, I know, that was a struggle for sure. So yeah, cell of words, make sure to use the pinned comment to ask your questions. And it is now 10:33 technically. Excuse me. So we will move on to our next subject, which is life in Japan, for our last 30 minutes of the stream. Yeah, Kalen the champion. Yeah, he's the reason I'm here. So yeah, thank that guy, because I was definitely gonna miss that flight. And if you missed that flight, like it was COVID time, like you had, and like my approval to get into the country was for that specific date that I booked my flight. So if I had to reschedule that, it would have created a whole mess of like bureaucratic problems. Like, oh my goodness, I could not imagine. So big shout outs to Kalen. All right, let me try to find a life in Japan question. There were a few that were asked earlier. It's a little bit hard to find them because they're kind of all mixed up. Okay, here's one. So how likely is it to get an interview at the Boston Career Forum at N3 level, aiming for N1, N2? Thank you for all the advice in your videos. Thank you for asking a question, and thank you for watching my videos. So for those of you who don't know, the Boston Career Forum is a career forum in Boston. How I got my job, I think. Was this the command? Exclamation mark job. I hope it is. It was. Okay, how I got my job in Japan. So if you've watched that video, you know that the Boston Career Forum is a career forum hosted in Boston, specifically hiring people who are bilingual, typically in Japanese and English. So they're usually Japan-based companies that fly into Boston to find foreign talent who speak English and Japanese. And I say typically because, yeah, typically they are looking for bilingual speakers, but there are positions that don't require Japanese or don't require fluent Japanese, right? So first of all, if you're N3 level, good job. Keep up the great work. So that is a good, solid intermediate level. Typically, you'll hear a lot of people and a lot of companies listing that they want N2 or higher level for working there, because that is what's considered business Japanese or more fluent Japanese. So, I mean, it really depends. I mean, I can't say for sure. I would say ideally you do want to have the N2, because a lot of times these Japanese companies can be a bit stiff with their rules. So here, let me just switch this so you can see me a bit better. Yeah, so if like the company has a rule that they only hire people who are N2 or higher, then unfortunately, even if you're like really good for N3, they might not accept you for an interview just based on their hard rule. But I think it would increase your odds of getting an interview, definitely way more than not having it, because they might just give you an interview anyways, and then they can test how good your Japanese is from the interview itself. So I'd say it could still be worth it, but definitely if you could, having N2 or higher, I mean, you're aiming for N1, N2, so just keep up the work. But that would make it easier. But I wouldn't say all is lost just because you're at N3. Yeah. And there are positions that only hire for English speakers as well, but you'll have more options if you speak Japanese 100%. Okay, let me just find our next life in Japan question. So I have done some research about PR. I just want you to check on this if there's a visa for HSP, which is highly skilled professional, where you're eligible for PR, so you apply and you're given a visa and then stay at Japan till 1 year or 3 years for PR. You check where you're eligible for PR, where you apply and you're given a visa. So in my understanding is that like the visa you're originally given to get into Japan and PR are separate. So I would say forget about PR right now. Like your main focus is just to get into Japan. So get a visa that gets you into Japan, and that's going to be that. And then you're going to think about, do you have enough points for PR? And I mean, you've probably watched my video on, how I got PR in Japan. I think this is the code PR for that video. That there's like a whole point system of being like a highly skilled professional. So yeah, so you get into Japan on your work visa, and if you have enough points, then you can apply for PR after you've been in Japan for 1 or 3 years, depending on how many points you have. Yeah, but that's unrelated to your initial visa. You don't apply for PR and then get given a visa. Yeah, it's not that you're eligible for PR, so then you're given a visa and then you get PR after you live there. From my understanding, that's not how it works. You just get your visa initially and then you get PR after that. Yeah, and so that was not the code for the video. How I got PR. Permanent. I'm not sure what the code was. It was PR, but anyways, it's on my channel. Check it out. How I got permanent residence in 2 years. I described the point system on how I did it. Excuse me. All right, let me try to find our next life in Japan question. Okay, yeah, now we got some new ones here. All right, next question. Hello, Sensei. I was wondering if Japanese companies put too much value in work experience. I'm planning to go to Japan for long term. Obviously, getting a job there would be amazing. So I was wondering if you have any tips for working in Japan when it comes to corporate jobs. By the way, I did watch your video on getting a job in Japan, but I want to get some more details. Haha. Sounds good. Thank you for watching my video. Too much value in work experience. I was wondering if you have any tips for working in Japan when it comes to corporate jobs. Yeah, so you are probably in luck here that Japan is typically different from the West in this sense. So, there's always that meme. You've probably seen work experience memes. like there's always this stuff. It's like when jobs you want to need like 10 years of work experience before the age of 22, and then you just like you have to be working when you're like a kid. Like that's like the meme in the West. But thankfully Japan is kind of different from that. So in Japan, they honestly want the opposite. So in Japan, there's a difference between what is this? Sotsugyo. There's like a term for whether you are a fresh graduate. Shinsotsu. I think it's shinsotsu. Shinsotsu. I'll write down the katakana as well. Shinsotsu, which literally means like new grad, like you just graduated from school. And then there is you could say like experienced worker. And this one is called chuto. I'm pretty sure chuto. So in Japan, so what you're referring to in general is like, do you need a lot of work experience, or can you do it without much work experience as like a fresh graduate? Excuse me. And the good thing about it in Japan is that they actually like fresh graduates more. Yeah, it's very different from the West, right? So they like fresh graduates more than actual experienced workers who are like, say, 40 years old and switching to a new job. Why? Why would you want a less experienced person? Well, Japan has this culture like from way back, from like even like the 40s or 50s, right when Japan was rebuilding from World War II, maybe even earlier from that. But Japanese companies and employees are very loyal to each other, typically. So if you're hired for a Japanese company, at least traditionally, you're there for life. Like the Japanese company will give you like total job security. Through thick and thin, they will not fire you. It is extremely hard to fire someone in Japan. Even if you're doing a terrible ass job, this is not a great thing, to be honest, but I guess good for job security. Even if you're doing a terrible ass job, they won't fire you. They'll just demote you and kind of put you in an irrelevant field that you don't like create too much trouble for the company. But they are with you thick and thin, traditionally. So that's what they promise to you. And what they expect in return is your loyalty, that you're not going to be switching companies. They can rely on you sticking with the company through thick and thin as well. So it's that culture of loyalty. So that's why they like shinsotsu, because from their perspective, if you are a fresh graduate, that means you are fully primed to, you're this new piece of meat ready to commit your life to this company, right? And they're gonna in turn treat you well, hopefully. I mean, there's a lot of buraku kigyo in Japan, so maybe they won't treat you that well, but they will give you job security, right? So that's why they actually like fresh graduates typically. Whereas experienced workers, even though they have experience, they're seen as less loyal in some cases, because they're clearly, if they're joining your company at the age of 40 or whatever with experience, that means that they've left another company. So from their perspective, who's to stop you from leaving their company if they hired you? So they want to hire fresh graduates typically. So thankfully, in this case, even if you don't have much experience, it is easier to get a job in Japan. Yeah. Work experience. You need 25 years of experience when you're 21. I know, like some jobs are like crazy with how much work experience they expect. Like, I get it. Like work experience is great. Like Japan's probably a little bit too intense on accepting fresh graduates. Like work experience is a good thing, but at the end of the day, just because you have work experience doesn't mean you're a capable worker. So honestly, you know, in my opinion, you should like interview people and like, if you can, feel them out a bit, maybe do some like test scenarios in the interview as much as you can and see like what they're capable of. Because, you know, there's people with experience who are not very good, and there's fresh graduates who are like really exceptional, and, you know, vice versa. You know, it's hard to tell just from this alone. So I think the West overdoes it with the needing experience. And honestly, Japan probably overdoes it with this, but is what it is. Pros and cons. Hey man, love your video. Appreciate you, Nabir, if that's how you pronounce it. Thanks for watching my videos. That's like what I asked. I'm a fresh graduate, but my GPA is mid. Yeah, so again, the good thing again about Japanese companies, they don't really care about GPA that much. Like as far as I know, they just care if you have a degree. They don't even care where the degree is from. It's kind of funny. They would prefer if you have a bachelor's degree. And if you have a bachelor's degree in like God knows whatever, welcome to the team for life. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next question. This is kind of unrelated to life in Japan, but I found your channel when I saw you in Takashi's video. How did you meet? How did he contact you? So Takashi, PR in Japan. And that should call, yeah. Look, it's me. Hey guys, I'm famous. I'm on Takashi's video and I'm the thumbnail. Yeah, so yeah, Takashi reached out to me on Instagram. I talk about this in my 100K special briefly. But yeah, he reached out to me because he was planning on making this video on how to get permanent residency in Japan. And at the time I had just uploaded my video on how to get PR in Japan. And it was actually kind of like taking off. Where is it? This video right here. How I got permanent residence in only 2 years. And so yeah, that was, I had uploaded that at the time. So that's how he discovered me. And then he just reached out to me on Instagram for the interview, which is pretty awesome. Because I watched his content. He's got like, you know, 2.5 million subscribers. And like, you know, probably anyone who's interested in Japan or learning Japanese has heard of him or seen his videos, including me. So I was just like, a message from Takashi, get out of here. Very exciting. All right, getting low on time, so I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can before we run out. Okay, so in case you forgot, I appreciate you dropping this question back in here. I will be graduating in 2027 and will try applying to Waseda University, SPSE if that matters, Eng program. I have a couple questions. Firstly, in terms of technology is bringing my PC to Japan. Okay, so is this question? Yep. And iPad for classes or buying a new laptop is better choice. Secondly, how do credit systems in Japan universities work? If I know, I don't know, unfortunately. So I can't help you there. Thirdly, if I plan to go to language school intensive class like 1 to 2 months before Japan, if I do get accepted, will I be able to achieve N5, N4, or even N3? Any tips would be helpful. Okay, so in terms of logistically bringing your PC to Japan, I brought my PC to Japan. And it's like one of those big boys. Like it's a proper like desktop PC. I think in this video, it's on the desk. Yeah, it's this boy right here. You see that? You see that bad boy? This bad boy on the desk here, made of glass too. I was very nervous, but I shipped that from Canada to Japan. And the way I did it is so for a lot of things, I just put things in like boxes and like lots of stuffers to keep it safe, taped it up many times. And then I just use a shipping company, probably FedEx, to ship it over to Japan. But this PC, I was really nervous about just giving it to FedEx, even though it probably would have been better that way. I actually brought it as carry-on. No, not carry-on, checked luggage for my plane. Don't know if that's honestly safer, but it worked out. I like put it in its original styrofoam casing. So the case, I put it in the styrofoam, put in a bunch of stuffers, put the stuffers in the PC itself as well so it doesn't shake around too much. And I literally carried it with me everywhere. Like it was on the plane when I got there, like when I was flying there, and I just carried it around with me like once I landed as well. And it was totally intact, no problems with it. So yeah, I would wrap it up. You don't need to do checked in luggage. Probably better just to use a shipping service. It will cost a lot because it's a big item and it's heavy, especially like a PC. But I mean, if it's a good PC, then it's worth it, you know? because you don't want to, it's going to be cheaper to ship it than buy a new one. But that was another advantage of using checked in luggage, is that it's basically free, right? Because like I think I had one big suitcase and then you're allowed 2 checked in suitcases, so it was free. So that was the advantage there. I could save some money. But yeah, there are better ways to do it as well. And if you do 1 or 2 months of intensive classes before school starts, could I get N5 and 4? Yeah, I mean, it depends how intense it is. N5 for sure, if it's intensive, like 8 hours a day in 1 to 2 months is possible. N4, it is still possible in like say 2 months of like at least 8 hours a day for 2 months, but it's going to be tough. N3, I'd say probably not likely. 2 months is just not enough time. You'd probably want to study for a bit longer. And you're saying you're graduating in 2027. So honestly, if you could, I would just start studying Japanese now, like on the side. And then if you can, and then also do the 1 or 2 hours of intensive studying after that, even better, right? Because yeah, like I said, like getting N3 before you move, I think puts you in a much better position. And especially if you're applying for university in Japanese courses, then you definitely want very good Japanese, right? But if it's just English, then you want Japanese just for quality of life. The gamer PC setup, yeah, straight up. It is a gamer PC for sure. I bought it technically like to edit better, because like editing software is also heavy, but just a little bonus that I can also use it for gaming. So you know how it is. And it looks pretty too. It looks very much like a gamer PC. I definitely liked making it very aesthetic. Any channel recommendations for learning Japanese from zero? Check out my video on how to learn it from nothing. And then I also give recommendations on other channels that you can use. What is up, Nubis? Thanks for joining us. And thank you for your question from last time. Made a good short. All right, next question. So what textbook would you suggest for N3 studying? Okay, well, this is a Japanese related question, so I'm going to skip this. But as we mentioned before, typically once you get to the N3 level, you're going to have to start self-studying. But if you just like go back, maybe rewatch the VOD, I do talk about that in depth on what you need to do. All right, what is up, Bianca again? I've been wondering how psychology is viewed in Japan as a profession. I'm from Austria. Got another friend from Austria in the chat here as well, or at least was here earlier. So I am curious how Japan is about psychology, clinical psychology, or just psychologists in general. Thanks. Yeah, so this is a very interesting topic. Let me just, my own face is starting to bother me. Let me just switch this tab. Yeah, so this is a very interesting topic. Traditionally, Japan is very much behind in terms of clinical psychology. Unfortunately, it is changing, but it's behind. Like there's not a great culture on going to therapy. It's still, like, I'd say stigmatized, and a lot of Japanese people definitely don't want to admit they're going to therapy. Even in the West, you know, there's still some stigma, but it's becoming more open, right? Like, it's okay to ask for help. Like, just because you go to therapy doesn't mean you're crazy. You just, sometimes it's just good to talk things out, and it really helps you like get through things. But in Japan, it's still very much stigmatized. And because there's such like a pressure in Japan to fit in, it's really hard to seek help. First of all, admit you need help, and also seek help, because you're basically admitting that you don't fit in, which is very difficult in Japan. So it is a bit behind. It is getting better, but because of this, a lot of the clinical psychology field is lacking. Like, it's really bad. I've heard some really bad horror stories about how clinical psychology works in Japan. I kid you not. Like this, you will not believe this. It is like your jaw will drop. Like, how does a developed country act like this? But I had a friend, and she's saying, yeah, so, you know, she had some whatever that, like, trauma or whatever that she wanted to go to therapy for. Okay, perfectly fine. You go see the therapist, and okay, it's so stupid. They literally the therapist is there and they line up a bunch of medicine, right? Okay, so there's like, say, 4 options of medicine, like this pill, this drug, whatever, da da da. They line up 4 medicine and they tell the patient, okay, which one speaks to you? I shit you not. Which one speaks to you right now? And you'd be like, this one, I guess. And they're like, okay, that's the one that's gonna work for you. I kid you not, it's so bad. like my friend is, at least she was like, she's in her late 40s, so hopefully this was like 20 years ago at least, or maybe 30 years ago. So hopefully it's like gotten better since then, but I shit you not, like that is not that far in the past. Hopefully it's not like every experience, but it's behind. So your expertise is very much needed here in Japan. So yeah, and I also met, like, in passing, another clinical psychologist at the gym before, and he reaffirmed it as well. Like, he's Japanese and he was saying, like, yeah, Japan is behind, but you know, he and the other clinical psychologists are trying to get Japan back on track. So yeah, hopefully you can be part of that mission as well, because Japan badly needs it. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking for help, but there's just so much stigma about it in Japan. It can be really difficult. I love letting my intuition choose my meds. I know, it's just so dumb. I don't get it. Yeah. So please help us out over here. Yeah, but of course I think that's, like, you know, an extreme case. There are like legitimate practices here, but yeah, it's just underdeveloped, unfortunately. I had another friend who did therapy as well, and they just did not like their therapist. And whether that was like a personal issue or an issue of Japan is, you know, something to be seen, but I would not be surprised if it's the fault of just Japan's institution is not that well developed yet. Yeah. All right, so let's see if we can get through one more question here, potentially. I'm looking to go to language school in Tokyo, and afterwards my master's taught in Japanese and fashion design, hopefully. Cool. Next year I'm planning to go to language school in Tokyo and afterwards do a master's in fashion next year. And I've never lived outside of Australia. Okay. Excuse me. Do you have any little tips or little life hacks that new people living in the country might not know and might not be so common to hear about? I'd love to hear about the best ways to keep cost of living down or ways to make your life more convenient. Great question. So I recently made a video, maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, on how to move to Japan. And I list a lot of my tips here. It's like the longest video I ever made. A lot of tips on my recommendations on how to live a good life in Japan. Biggest one is learning Japanese. I mean, you're going to a language school in Tokyo, so that's great. If you can, I'd even prepare even more if you could. But if you're going through like a full-time language school for at least a year, that's like okay for sure. But you know, get as fluent as you possibly can. Another tip that I didn't know when I first moved here, but I would have appreciated, is knowing about the resource called Meetup. I talk about this in the video, so I won't go too much in depth. But yeah, it's basically just like this website. It's like this icon here, and it's just a website where you can literally look up events in your area. Especially if you're in Tokyo, there's going to be so many, and it's just a great way because it's a great way to meet people, because it's like 50% Japanese, 50% foreigner typically. So it's a really good way to both meet Japanese people and like meet the locals and practice Japanese, and find a community of foreigners who maybe are also from Australia or just other English speaking countries, you know, more Western. So you have, you know, more friends as well that, you know, are more similar to your cultural background, and also you're meeting Japanese people. It's just a great way to ease your way into the culture and find a community right from day one, because you're not expected to know anybody when you show up to meet up. It's just you're going there to meet people, and that's a great tip. And a way to keep the cost of living down, don't move to Tokyo, but it's still probably going to be cheaper than Australia, to be honest. So it's really not that bad. Cost of living down, I mean, it'd probably be the same as any other country. You know, cook for yourself, don't eat out too much. Even though eating out in Japan is honestly not that bad. You can get pretty cheap meals, and the konbini slaps as well. But yeah, cost of living in Japan is typically pretty low, so it's not that bad. Yeah, but check out my video for sure on all my main tips. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no problem, Bianca. Glad I could answer your question. Who gave me this membership? I wasn't even watching. The gods blessed you. The gods being Bianca. And then R and Jesus just decided to give it to you. So congratulations. Yeah, it's random. Yeah, hopefully, Hong, you can maybe get it next time. But yeah, so it's been 2 hours now. So it is now 11 p.m. here in Japan. So we're going to start wrapping this up. But thank you all for your questions. And thank you for everyone who dropped by, whether it was for 2 minutes or the whole 2 hours. Thanks for sticking around and being part of the community, asking your questions, being part of the conversation. Hopefully, you know, we're able to learn something together today. Always a pleasure talking to you guys. And I'm also thinking about doing these live streams maybe at this time every 2 weeks. Please let me know what you guys think of that schedule. Maybe in the future I'd like to do it every week, but for now I think every 2 weeks is probably a good frequency for me, so I can still focus on making videos. And I want to like make some shorts as well from these live streams, so pacing it gives more time to make those shorts as well. But yeah, in terms of like the timing, Sundays at 9, again, like at night here. Asia is evening time, Europe's middle of the day, North America, South America is a little bit kind of early, but it's still doable for most time zones. So, and because it's a Sunday, there's no work during the day, you know, for the Europeans or the South Americans in the morning. So, but let me know what time works, but I'm guessing this is probably one of the best we can do, but I'd love to know what you guys think. And again, if there's any way I can improve this stream, if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear it. I want to make it a little bit better every time. So any questions or comments you have, drop it in the comments below or in the chat, wherever. And yeah, let's keep learning Japanese and learning about Japan and dreaming about it together. Your video on moving was super helpful for me. Thank you so much. I'm glad. My Japanese Immersion X. I'm glad it was helpful for you. Yeah. Glad to hear. I put all my knowledge I could into that video. Sunday would be great. I'll try to join as often as possible. Yeah, it'd be great to see you, Bianca. Good streaming time. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for all your positive vibes and sharing some gifted memberships as well, and becoming a member yourself. Really appreciate your support. And thanks for asking some great questions, and good luck with your masters. It's awesome. And your Japanese studies as well. I'm in North Africa and the timing of your live is perfect for me. Okay, great to hear. Oh, same from Victor Blade. We got a lot of Northern Africans out here. Let's go, represent. Thanks for joining. Yeah, no, unfortunately, we're done with the questions for now. But hopefully you can join next live stream and we can go over it. Yeah, maybe one day, yeah, more time for life in Japan. Potentially, yeah, if there's enough questions for it. It seems like there were quite a few questions for it. So maybe we can figure out some way to increase that. So thanks for the suggestion. But anyways, thank you guys so much again for joining, and hopefully I will see you again in 2 weeks. In the meantime, good luck with your studies and good luck with your potential future moves or even just trips to Japan. I will see you guys later. Tokuyuu out. End stream button is here. Bye-bye.